Hello, welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. So, I guess it was a couple weeks ago I did an audio about compassionate release and about how people with substance abuse disorders can actually fit the criteria. I'm going to take this a step further. We have in the Bureau of Prisons, the director of the Bureau of Prisons currently is Colette Peters. She was on 60 Minutes here not long ago. They were filming a woman's prison, I want to say somewhere on the East Coast. But in it, she was talking about the different problems they had in the Bureau of Prisons, goals she's trying to meet, etc., and so on and so forth. But she was saying one of the goals she would like, or one of the things that she would like to see less people incarcerated, and the numbers drop. I want to say to Director Peters that she actually has the authority to do this, and I'm going to use a few examples of things that are coming out of some the Inspector Generals, I guess it is. So there's newsletters that are passed out in the Bureau of Prisons. One of the companies called LISA, actually, and I forgot what the acronym stands for. LISA publishes a free newsletter every Monday. Okay, anyway, in it, there's several things, but most noteworthy in regards to this is a report that came out by, I think it was Horowitz. FCI Sheridan has serious deficiencies, DOJ Inspector General finds. The Department of Justice Inspector General released a report last Wednesday that found serious operational deficiencies, including alarming shortages of staff at the Bureau of Prisons facility in Sheridan, Oregon. Now, this is happening all over the place. Director Peters knows this. I think the stats for the Bureau of Prisons is about 40% understaffed. Commonly in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, what you have is lockdowns due to staff shortages. And one of the things that keeps happening over and over again is, I think it's called augmentation. That's when medical personnel often has to fill in for like staff to do security work. Okay. So, in that same report, and I'm going to find it real quick, we need to be their cells during hours. Okay. So Horowitz report, that's the Inspector General. A shortage of correctional officers meant that inmates must routinely be confined to their cells during daytime hours and are therefore unable to participate in program and recreational activities. Now, this is at Sheridan, but again, this is BOP-wide. Ms. Peters stated that she wanted less inmates in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. That's what she would like to see. If you take a look at the new statute, if you take a look at the criteria for compassionate release after 2019, you will find, as I stated before in an audio, that if you have a terminal illness or a debilitating disease that the Bureau of Prisons cannot handle, that is a criteria for compassionate release. For people that don't know, if you want to file for compassionate release, there are several ways to get out. First, an inmate must file to the warden. If the warden responds within 30 days, you have to file what's called a BP-9. You have to follow administrative remedies. Basically, you have to exhaust the administrative remedies, which are BP-8, BP-9, BP-10, and then finally it goes to the region, which Ms. Director Peters is over. I'm arguing that an inmate with substance abuse disorder, which is a debilitating disease that only gets worse, that's what science tells us, that's what rehab teaches us, that's what probation officers tell us, that's what the judges tell me. Judge said something to me about it. So, Director Peters can put out a directive stating that inmates that are short, less time, not much time, that have substance abuse disorders, can qualify for compassionate release, and she has the authority to let them out. She can give a directive to all wardens in the Federal Bureau of Prisons stating if you have somebody who has documented proof that they have substance abuse disorder due to the fact that the Bureau of Prisons cannot adequately and properly house them in a manner which is safe, that is, they don't have programs that then meets the criteria for compassionate release under debilitating and progressive disease. This is not a joke. This can be done instantly, and if people actually push the issue, I bet you for sure there's at least liberal judges out there that would go for this. Now, let me be clear. The first step in compassionate release is that you have to file through a warden. If the warden either doesn't answer in 30 days, or if they do answer, you have to exhaust administrative remedies, then it goes to the judge. Okay, for example, I don't believe a judge in a more conservative state would grant a compassionate release based on what I'm saying. I'm sure that there are people that are listening to what I'm saying right now saying, I'm full of shit, I'm dreaming, boom, boom, whatever. If you read the statute and you have any piece of a brain whatsoever, I can make this, you can make this fit. You can make the legal argument that a person would absolutely qualify for compassionate release based on progressive disease, i.e. i.e. substance abuse, and the fact that the Bureau of Prisons, through the Inspector General and through their own words, say that they do not have the staff to take care of inmates.
This call is from a federal prison.
In general. Now, let me read a few more things that should... okay, the Senate also has a bill going on right now that has to do with... what's it called? The Federal Prison Oversight Act, a bill introduced by Representatives Lucy McBath and Kelly Armstrong. One of them's the former's Democrat, the latter is a Republican. It passed the House by 392 to 2. That would require DOJ Inspector General to conduct comprehensive risk-based inspections of the BOP's 122 facilities. First of all, that we need a Federal Prison Oversight Act. That's alarming and should speak volumes to what goes on inside the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The bill also would create independent ombudsman, I hate that word, to investigate complaints from inmates and staff. So we need a whole separate investigative oversight to investigate the complaints of inmate and staff, which that should say a lot. Now I want you to listen to this quote. Incarcerated, this is by McBath, by the way. Incarcerated Americans should not fear death when they enter our federal prison system, McBath said. Our federal prisons must serve as institutions that rehabilitate and prepare Americans for reentry in society, and that cannot happen without putting meaningful accountability measures in place. Meaning, what is she saying? There are no measures in place at this time. Okay? The Inspector General has said that there's shortages in staff. I'm sorry, Director Peters has complained about there being shortages in staff. And there's people that are actually saying that people shouldn't fear dying when they enter Federal Bureau of Prisons. That says it all right there. I think it's over 50% of all inmates that come in here suffer from substance abuse disorder, i.e. are junkies, put in facilities where you can do that's nothing but progress their illness because of the amount of narcotics in these institutions and the lacking of program. So I am dead serious when I say that people should call on Director Peters. They should send emails to her. They should send emails to the congressman that all that noise she's talking on 60 Minutes about how she wishes she can do this and her hands are limited. No, her hands are tied. Her hands aren't tied. She can give a directive to all the wards right now stating that people with a history of substance abuse disorder do qualify under the compassionate release statute, and that they must be let go. The judge doesn't need to get involved. Probation doesn't need to get involved. She can do it all by herself, and she can do it by herself immediately. This is not a joke. This is something that can be done. The Bureau of Prison has, 459 government subcomponent agencies. So that's within the Department of Justice, there's a Bureau of Prisons, and so forth. That's 459. Out of 459, the Bureau of Prisons ranks 459th. That's the bottom of the score. So the BOP ranked 459 out of 459 government subcomponent agencies overall, garnering the bottom score in effective leadership, mission matched, employee recognition, diversity, work-life balance, and professional development. So at the bottom of the barrel here is the government, is the Bureau of Prisons. I know a lot of people in the bread and water crowd won't care. Prisoners need to be punished, blah, 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 not understanding truly that the punishment is the incarceration. Excuse me. The punishment is the incarceration. Anything else within the incarceration should not be about punishment. Clearly saying everybody should have Xboxes and PlayStations, although, excuse me, I'm choking on a pea. As in a green pea I just had for dinner. Not necessarily saying everybody should have Xboxes and PlayStations, although I was just in the private prison industry where in the whole they did have PlayStation and it made a difference as far as violence. And that is a good thing, because you don't want inmates to be violent in prison, because they can come out and be violent in your neighborhoods. Now, let me mention this one, and this is something that Director Peters needs to help get with Congress and really truly think about. It's increasing sentences for staff members who commit crimes. I don't care what crime it is. People in positions of trust should be held to the utmost, the highest form of, people that they, people who are in positions of care or trust.
This call is from a federal prison.
They should be given mandatory minimum penalties of no less than 20 years. I don't give a damn if it's bringing a cigarette inside the Bureau of Prisons. That helps break that when somebody commits crimes, they bring contraband in, it breaks down the system in general. We have, out of Florida, let me read this part, something else more appalling that nobody else out there cares about. Former BOP officer gets 24 months for sexually abusing inmates. 24 months. The DOJ issued a press release last week awarding a 24-month sentence imposed on a former BOP correctional officer for having sexually assaulted 2 female inmates at FCI Aliceville. Robert Smith has been held accountable for abusing his position of trust by sexually assaulting an adult in his custody, a press release quoted. And then we have people that have a pocket full of methamphetamine or a handful, and in Oklahoma, 21 grams on it could be a misdemeanor. In the federal system, 5 grams you can start off and get 0 to 30 years. Now, people doing 20 years for a meth that fits in their pocket. But hey, the same guard that can watch you when you go in for meth can sexually assault you, get 24 months. Does that make sense, Director Peters? Does that make sense, people in the public out there? It is stupid. It's hard to get people to care until it's your family member. And I don't know, the girls could have been throwing it on this guy. So Robert Smith could have just been a cop who, here comes some sexy young thing or Dollar General body broad, whatever you want to call it, threw it on him, and he gets hit. That's possible. That's his fault. Nobody else's. If the girls did that, if they got out of extra time, because I'm sure there's females who go ahead and throw it on some of the male staff, and then they get time cuts for doing it. That is the male staff being an idiot. He's a moron for falling for it if that's the case. People in positions of power get less time because they are the government. If you work for the government, you don't manipulate. You have tactics you use to get your way. If you're a drug addict, you're a manipulating, lying piece of shit. That's how it goes. But my point being, Director Peters, if she wants to be all that, if she wants to be an agent of change, female director coming behind some bad apples, you got Harley Lappin, drinking and driving, not giving a damn. Now he's making, what, $2 million a year in private prison. He didn't care, just drinking. And, he was a party warden at Terre Haute, as a matter of fact. He didn't care about dope. People liked him, but she comes behind regional directors that were lacking in a lot of different ways. She wants to be the arbiter of change, truth, justice. She needs to go in front of Congress and demand.
This call is from a federal prison.
I don't know. I don't understand why Congress wouldn't look at correctional officers and say if they commit crimes, they deserve like maximum penalties. They deserve it. Just the worst penalty is the worst of the worst. If they're bringing contraband in a facility, they are the worst of the worst. If they're sexually abusing inmates, they are the worst of the worst. Going back to programming, I want to say something to Director Peters herself. You are overseeing programs, a lot of them that are just completely fraudulent, and people are getting credits off their sentences under the First Step Act. For example, normally people can do 85% of their time if they just exist and behave. Under the First Step Act, inmates can now do basically 65% of their sentence if they actually do programming. Let me bring attention to a program that I'm aware of, walking class. You can get time off, 10 days a month for walking. Just go walk and get some time off. Does that even make any kind of sense, Director Peters? You're overseeing that. This is your baby. I know classes at Terre Haute accredited through the Department of Labor All fraud. There was no class. You go and you sign a piece of paper, and you're accredited to the Department of Labor. It's called a criminal conspiracy. If you don't believe me, somebody needs to pull up my brief for compassionate release, which was filed back in April of 2000. I told my judge all about it. Nobody ever mentioned it. That's the way it is. I want to sweep stuff like this under the rug because in the United States of America, we don't want things like this to exist. We're supposed to be professional and good and all that stuff. That's bullshit. Just go walk. You can go walk. Just go walk the lap. Go walk a few laps. You can get 65%. You can just do 65% of your time. How's that for you bread and water crowd people? How does it feel knowing that if I go outside and walk right now, 2 days a week, I can get less time off my sentence? Screaming about America and all this other stuff and morons. I mean, it's stupid. What do I want? I'm advocating for some real classes. That's why Director Peters, what she needs to do is she needs to go in there, and I'm going to right now. I didn't get it yet. He's got it. Absolutely. Right after I hang up. Okay. So Director Peters needs to go in there, and she needs to get all the drug addicts in prison who she can't help because the system isn't designed for it, and order all the wardens in the BOP, give them a directive to grant them compassionate release via the administrative remedy program. It's right there. She can do it. She says there's an overcrowding problem. She says there's an understaffed problem and an overcrowding problem. Bingo. It's right there at her fingertips. But do the right thing, Director Peters. Really look into it. I know that there's judges of law enforcement out of the Western District of Arkansas that listen to me. Maybe you guys should help her. Maybe you guys should send a letter to her telling her what I'm saying is true. Take care. Have a good one. I am Robert Rosso. Yes, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. I've been the problem, and I no longer want to be the problem. Bye-bye.